Welcome to Movies in Minutes, where we spend roughly a minute running down a movie's plot with our own commentary mixed in. Today, we're doing something a little different. Instead of reviewing movies we like, we are going to go through some movies we hate. This is a biased, opinion-based episode, so if you disagree with us, too bad. This is how we feel about the movies. And it might go over a minute. Sorry about that.
Lord of the Rings is hailed as one of the most important and influential works of fantasy of all time in both literature and film. Everyone loves getting sucked into the world of Tolkien's magical imagination, except me. When I watch Lord of the Rings, I found the films to be filled with long, quiet, dull sections or scenes that go nowhere. Like in the first film where they debate about whether or not to go through the Dwarven Tunnel or over the mountain. Gandalf decides to go over, and then we get a brief moment of the characters on top of the mountain and complaining about the extreme weather and deciding that the mountain is impassable, so they must go back down and use the tunnel. If they were going to end up using the tunnel, why even bother bringing up the mountain? Why include the mountain in the story? What narrative purpose did this serve? To establish that the journey is long and difficult? We already knew that. We don't need to see the heroes have to backtrack just to reinforce it.
I hate a Tom Hanks movie. I honestly never thought I'd say that. 1988's Big is actually kind of disturbing. Not on purpose, but maybe that's what makes it worse. For those of you not aware of cringy 80s movies, this is about a 12-year-old who wants to be big, and with some outdated technology, gets that wish. He's in the body of a 30-year-old, yet has the intellect of a 12-year-old. While he's big, he ends up dating this woman. That's right, woman. Full-grown adult, not a 12-year-old in a 30-year-old's body, but a woman. Maybe they wanted a sweet message to send kids about growing up too fast, but all I could think while watching this was, this woman is technically a pedophile. Yeah, sure, he looks 30, but he's really 12. Why she'd even want to date someone with the intellect of a little boy, I have no idea. Through most of the movie, she knew exactly what she was doing, but him, not so much. It was as if she was taking advantage of an overgrown child. The whole romance was uncomfortable and made the movie incredibly creepy.
For my movie, or movies in minutes, I will be discussing the Twilight Saga. This 5-part story is nationally and internationally acclaimed. Everyone and their grandmother knows at least of the saga's existence. Millions of others are die-hard fans. But why? Now, before you say don't knock it till you've tried it, I have watched all 5 films. Now, while the first one was fairly interesting, the movies that followed seemed forced. I feel like they could have told the entire story in just 1 or 2 movies instead of me wasting hours on a 5-part saga. Personally, I'm not a fan of the cheesy, romantic, whatever you would call this movie's plot. Werewolf versus vampire, vampires that sparkle instead of disintegrate when hit with sunlight. And come on, Bella. Who in the world would choose a dead-eyed, antisocial creep over a charismatic and charming guy who can literally turn into a giant dog? Now, I don't want the Twihards to get me wrong. I don't hate Twilight. I simply think of the saga as one of those movies you go to and see in the theater, but would never want to buy and watch in your own home.
In my video, I will talk about X-Men First Class. I have one pro for this whole entire movie: the costumes. The costumes were super good with a mixture of blue and yellow from the comics, and the animated show itself. Here are my cons for it. For the first con, it seemed very slow for my taste. Like, it just seemed very slow in the beginning and quick at the end. For my second con, who ships Mystique and Beast together? Like, why? I'm sorry, I do not ship it. I go more by the comics than the live-action film itself. And my final con is the way Charles Xavier, aka Professor X, was shot in the back. It was just too cheesy. Like, obviously, he was going to get paralyzed by Magneto. He's Professor freaking X. But the way it was played out, it was just not the best.
Howdy, y'all. I'd like to tell you about a movie nearly universally acclaimed, but something I do not like: Toy Story 3. The first Toy Story was a benchmark in 3D animated movies, and Toy Story 2 was a fun romp that really grew the toys into deep and compelling characters. Then Toy Story 3 comes along, and it's just not the same. For one, the toys seem to have gone backwards in terms of character development. In the last movie, Buzz and the others would do anything to save Woody. This time, they don't lift a finger when other toys, apart from the main ones, are taken away, off screen, including Bo Peep, Woody's love interest. Secondly, Buzz's character really doesn't have an arc. When in the last two movies he was a central focus, it seems in this movie he's relegated to a secondary character, like the Potato Heads. In fact, I think the Potato Heads have more lines than Tim Allen did in the whole film. Lastly, this movie is such a downer. It's all about the toys going to a daycare after feeling betrayed by Andy, their master, only to be betrayed again immediately by a stuffed bear who felt betrayed by his previous owner. That's a lot of betrayal in a kid's movie. Not only is this film dealing with serious abandonment issues, it's actively making me feel guilty for not playing with my old toys. Not to mention how traumatizing some of this stuff is for children. The climax of the film is literally all the toys accepting their fate to be burned alive. Sure, they all end up safe in the end, but I can't get over how scary it must be to young children who must feel guilty for the way they treated the toys in daycares they go to in real life. In short, Toy Story 3 will always be my least favorite Toy Story film. Until the next one is made, that is.